We're going to go ahead and get started. For anyone who's online, good evening. Feel free to post any questions in the chat or raise your hand if you have a question or comment. We're going to go ahead and run through the presentation, and then we'll do a quick Q&A. The Old Town Mall Streetscape project. This is part of the greater effort with the Department of Housing and the State Housing Association, who've been working on this area quite a bit. Old Town Mall is obviously a huge asset and historical property and a jewel for the community. This project specifically is looking at the streetscape, so that's the surface layer of the street, doing streetscaping, making it, repairing it, frankly, returning it to full service, and then also doing some upgrades, making it seem friendlier, making it a little more walkable, a little more accessible, and also trying to return accessibility to all the storefronts, make it more attractive and stable for the businesses so that they can really not just survive, but thrive in the Old Town Mall footprint. So this is a overhead view of the project area. The portions in blue are the portions that are being discussed tonight. Go ahead. So right now, with just some context slides for where this project lies, where Old Town Mall is in kind of conjunction with the rest of the community, the neighborhood. We got some old pictures of Old Town Mall from the past. The general design approach is really three big pillars: providing a streetscape design that will enhance the identity and the sense of place, restore the historic right-of-way, and provide limited vehicle access to businesses, and then provide a safe community-based space that is conducive to economic growth. So our kind of concept that we've been refining through a number of different community engagement portions up to this point, we heard some very clear requests and demands for restoring vehicle access to Old Town Mall, but we also heard a lot of concerns and a lot of comments about people who wanted to maintain sort of the historic pedestrian-focused elements of the Old Town Mall. So what we have kind of come up with and what we've already showed at a very high level is what's called a woonerf. A woonerf is like a fun word that is a Dutch term, but it basically means a shared street, a curbless street, one that's shared between vehicles and pedestrians, where vehicles are allowed, but they're treated as guests. Vehicles do not have necessarily the right of way, pedestrians do. And so this is meant to be a very slow street, a very community-oriented and pedestrian street that still maintains a lot of accessibility. So here you have some examples of woonerfs the country. These are all shared streets that have been constructed in like high economic areas. Again, the idea here is to construct an environment that feels inviting, that feels warm, that feels safe, and is really, again, conducive to that sort of like street level activity that we want to see return to Old Town. So some of the design principles that we utilized, obviously we want that multimodal shared street environment. We want this to be a pedestrian-centered place, but we also want to make sure that we are including limited on-street parking as well as loading for a number of the businesses that don't have access to loading in the rear of the property. So again, trying to create an environment where everybody is set up for success. We're also trying to integrate some green infrastructure into the streetscape. Flooding is a big problem right now in Old Town Mall. This is an old piece of infrastructure. So trying to introduce some green elements, some what we would call non-impervious, which is basically a fancy word for saying things that when it rains can absorb a lot of that. We're also going to utilize some paver-sized patterns and colors in order to define the street space function, as well as look at cohesive site furniture style. So that's like benches and other like amenities for people who are walking and shopping so that it feels more comfortable. Go ahead, Jen. So right now, this is kind of like the technical numbers. Right now, we have a 10-foot wide travel lane, 18 on-street parking spaces. We have 6 parking/loading bays. So those are going to be located at spots along the corridor where those businesses that don't have rear access can utilize this for loading and unloading on in certain times, right? That are not peak times, but are off-peak times. We're also creating about 18,000 square feet of amenity space. There will be installations of 18 bike racks, a number of planter boxes. There's going to be street trees, some miscellaneous planting, things like bollards and benches, inlets and street lights. Things, again, to try and restore purpose, restore that sort of character and feeling of safety to the corridor. So right here, we have some high-level streetscape design concepts. So what we've done is that blue strip in the center would be the spot that is the only place where vehicles can utilize. We have kind of put parking bays. We've put them on either side of the street, kind of in a diagonal pattern. And then we've delineated the use of those spaces through marked pavers. You can keep going. So here's a high-level rendering of what this project could look like when we finally do go to construction. You can see here that this is curbless, right? We're using painted pavers to delineate uses of space, but you can see a lot of people utilizing the center space. You can see some cars parked. You can see that this reintroduces a lot of space specifically for the use of the merchants, specifically for the use of people who are shopping, wandering around. We want to encourage foot traffic. We want to encourage people to linger in this area, to buy things, and then wander through. This is supposed to be a family-focused environment, something where people feel comfortable and safe. So here we just have like some very technical drawings of the 15% design. So 15% design for us basically means a refined concept, something that we would then take to 30%. And then the work between 30% and 100% is largely technical and engineering to make sure that when it goes to construction, everybody knows exactly where everything goes. So this is the existing mapping we did. We did do a lot of survey in this area. We know that utility coordination is going to be really, really critical for when we go to construction. Part of the purpose of this project is that we know that the utility rebuilds in this area are direly needed. And so we're coordinating with DPW so that after they replace and repair a lot of these utilities, they tear up this area really bad. We can go back in with this new refined concept and build it in a way that it's going to be hopefully used for a very long time. So these are some of the engineering schematics of the concepts that you've already seen. Some typical cross sections here. You can see where we're going to introduce some of these like sunken planters. The idea behind those, again, is to create areas for runoff. Drainage is a big problem, like I said already. And these sorts of amalgamations, these sunken kind of gardens, are a great way to soak up a lot of that rainwater and make sure that the area doesn't flood and you're not stepping in puddles and it's usable all year round. So here we're just kind of talking about paving details. This is some of the stuff I talked about with using colored pavers and stylistic pavers to delineate roadway use. So this is, again, demarcating the area where it is pedestrians only, where vehicles are allowed. Here we have some kind of like templates for the colors and stylistic designs that we're planning on using. Some of these may look familiar. Those pedestrian warning pavers are an important part of making sure that we are creating an accessible space that people who are sometimes hard of sight can still feel comfortable using. And then the next couple of slides are just a couple of high-level things about street furniture. that we'll be introducing as part of the construction of this project. You can kind of keep going. So these are kind of some of the classic Baltimore City elements. We're going to be using some of the sconce lighting, which is a slightly more decorative lighting, again, to try and contribute to this greater atmosphere of purpose and care. And then also we have some of these benches. These are the bike rack typographies that we'll be using. They're kind of, they're not the typical hexagonal style. They're a little more nice looking, meant to again contribute to this greater atmosphere of care and purpose. So with that, the next steps. So I talked a little bit about this at the top, right? This represents the 15%, which is what we would consider to be a finalized concept. The next job for the city is moving those to 30%, which is really drilling down into the existing conditions, making sure that the concept that we've created is one that is constructible in every way. And we are going to come back probably as soon as next year with those 30% plans as they've been completed. And then the 30% plans, once they're finished, will be handed over to engineers for the final construction portion, the 30 to 100%. We're also going to be looking to, as part of that, we're going to be doing further utility investigation in coordination with DPW. We're going to be doing a couple of cleanup portions. So there's Old Town Mall, because of its historic nature and because of some of the funny things that happen with the like the way that the whole area is broken up into parcels. We have to work with housing to make sure that the parcels are essentially appropriate for the work that we want to do. So we're still working with DHCD on that. And then we're also going to be looking at some signage, perhaps some opportunities for public art, where those could exist, and how the agency could go ahead and procure those services. So those will all be part of the kind of 30% plan. Okay, and then we also have a live survey on the Streets of Baltimore page. Pretty simple. It's just streetsofbaltimore.com/Old Town Mall. There you can fill out the survey. You can also ask any further questions, make any comments you have about the project as we refine this 15% into the 30%. And we have some contact information.
Right. And then after this, we Q&A from anybody here or online. Has there been any questions on that?
So I don't think John might not have been picked up on the microphone. We're moving to the Q&A. So if anyone online has a question, please raise your hand, or you can type it in the chat, and I can address it directly. Or if any of
trying to represent the South 50 Buck community as community input on this particular project. Hey, I'm glad to hear that there's a plan happening from this 15% into conceptual. Some of the things that I'm considered or concerned about is it going to be a one-way or two-way? And which way you're going to egress and ingress from? For people with disabilities, those concerns are in play. I like the fact that with the tree planting with submerged planters, because they can be used for safety barrier as well. I'll bring that to the community. On the sidewalk marking with the pavers.
John, can you go back to the paper slide? Yes, sir.
Right. Well, one of the things that is with that is that how we gonna remove snow, you know, during the time of the climate weather, and making Old Town Mall fit back into a plan of usefulness. you're building the plan, the road out before the properties are reinvested into to develop that concept report. But one of the things I could suggest that we go in there and a surface that more around walk, a walking like design that pathway on both sides of the streets where they're interacting, it's like the community track.
Okay,
Yeah, and then also it's rideable for bikes.
for sure.
Right, and because when I'm looking at your conceptuals on the 15%, it's showing one lane going in, and I'm assumption that's coming in from the ask is going out towards.
Could you go back to the aerial, the kind of like context shot? Towards the beginning.
Yeah, okay.
So there's a couple questions.
Okay.
And so I think we'll start with, keep going, John. I want the area. Nope. All the way back to the, there you go, that one. So right now, and I'm going to move over to the slide. So right now it is one way. Because this is going to be a 10-foot travel lane, and because we want to make sure that this is pedestrian focused, having two lanes, I think would crowd those pedestrian spaces too much, and it wouldn't allow a lot of the businesses and the future businesses to have things like outdoor dining and other things that I think we can all agree would be really, really incredible for this area. So right now, we have them ingressing over here off of, John, help me out. Is that a switch? I got them flipped.
Monument, and yeah, monument it turns off.
So they're coming in through here, and then they'll be coming out on the other side.
Right.
And the reason for that is because the stop controls are better, and because this is a one-way, it allows us to control the flow of traffic a little better. It makes it safer, so people are going left and right when they're coming out. I know that we've had a couple of comments throughout the project about that configuration and maybe some concerns from the adjoining neighborhoods.
Sure.
That this will increase traffic and maybe they're a little concerned. So we've tried to address that through a couple of different things. There's going to be significant parking off of that ingress portion. And so
is that going to go left or right? Because the parking lot is
right. So the parking lot right now, as it's proposed, and this is not a Baltimore City property. I'm blocking it, but this is going to be a parking lot. So as people enter, they can park here and then they can walk through the corridors. And so the hope there is, as part of the 30% plans, we're also going to be looking at the traffic patterns over here for these residents to make sure that what we're doing here doesn't overtly negatively impact them. We know parking over there is tight, and we know that there's other concerns. We don't want to create a ton of through traffic for them either, because they have, even though they're next to this very busy corridor, they have a relatively quiet neighborhood, and we want to respect the fact that that's their preference, right?
Yeah, but now the new Perkins project is on the other side.
Correct. So the southwest side is privately owned of Old Town Mall, and that includes like the fire station and a number of other properties. This is all being renovated privately. They are going to take our concept, our like 30% concept, and they're going to extend that so there's continuity through the project limits. So they'll be duplicating essentially whatever the city decides. You had another great question about the properties and the timing.
Properties, right, and the way that they will enter in because of the development that's already being done with Perkins, and then on the top side of that is where it's Monument, and I see the sugarcane field at the top, and that's a one-way entry right there going up Monument Street, and then there's a small turn right there, which is Astor Street, would come down to those separate owned properties, and then you have a couple churches that are over there, and you have a high-rise senior building over on the other side.
Right here, yep.
Right, and maybe in the look of this to make it useful, because the way the Old Town Mall is designed in traffic pattern is landlocked.
Right.
Right, and to make somebody shoppable or to lure in a business to take on that market in that particular area, you would have to consider that. And to load those stores, on the backside of one side is privately owned, and then on the other side is a wide open parking lot. And we need to look at that side as inviting them into that area, maybe even on the facings of Old Town Mall, because you have red properties. The back of it is faced to the new development.
Right here.
Yeah, right there. And I mean, if the city's looking into HDC, we're looking at redeveloping that for spatial purposes, bring that mall to the outside.
So
Instead of running them into that one lane on one side, because if you go one way down, it takes one person to park and they're gonna block it and congestion it going towards, the other end of that.
Yeah.
So when we go to that corner, it's one way coming down the street.
Yeah, that's Astor Street.
No, we go to the corner. Behind the mall.
Oh,
Yeah.
They get the new buildings. That's when we're coming down.
On one side of the street, yeah, because that's across from the fire station is on the other side of the street.
I'm talking about the other side. I'm not asking you to go to the corner.
Okay.
It comes down and it's going up Astor, it's coming this way, it's one time.
Oh, that's where that little private village of
Yeah.
houses is. Yeah, that's set right behind the mall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
So-
coming down to, right?
So one of the big pieces of this is that I know I said that this is the primary project area, but if you can see these black dots, we're including these two alleys, for lack of a better word, because the objective of this project is to make not just improve this, but to also take a look at all of the roads surrounding it to make it more attractive to the neighbors in order to walk and access it. We want, an ideal project here, an ideal project combining both DOT's work and DHCD's work and the developer's work, is to have a space where not only, the elderly living complex, the residents of the elderly housing, but also the new Somerset and the 4th Street apartments and some of the other individuals who live down here feel like this is something where they can leave their house on a Saturday morning, they can take a quick walk, and they can, avail themselves to all of the amenities that will be popping up.
You think maybe taking the parking out? I mean, I understand.
Let me bring in the little speaker.
I understand the concept,
Yes.
but having that strip of 18 spaces I'm looking at, on street parking, may be a hindrance. I think if you want it to be a walk store for people to come in and out, having cars, bikes, I understand. But cars coming in and out of that one street, and then it's one way here, one way there. That area, like you said, is landing. It's parking. So maybe find a lot or whatever you may have to do, but having parking in that one strip, I like the concept of this, the parking part, which is,
Yeah.
I think that's not.
And also looking at for emergency services, getting EMS down there, they're gonna need that 10-foot gap in between that space. But yeah, because one thing about those cars, those are merchant cars. And merchants come in vans and somebody park it, once they park it, they thinking they're claiming it because it's their spot. It's time to actually, if they redesigning those properties to load them properties from the rear entry into those properties instead of, for pedestrian safety, for bicycles, and the fact that when they built the sugarcane field, they actually took away from what they already had in place, which was the transit.
Right.
Because Gay Street connected all the way up to Bel Air Road and came through there and down to your harbor. And when that was taken out and the reconstructing, configuring, it's gonna make it real tough to decide who's gonna get that parking space.
So a couple of quick things. I completely understand and see where you're at. One of the main priorities of the project, as we communicated with the existing landowners, those who like have stuck it out and are still in the old town trying to make businesses work, as well as prospective investors, was that there was a serious desire on behalf of some of the merchants to have some amount of parking. They felt like if we were to create a pedestrian-only corridor, it would be to the severe detriment of their prospective success. So what I think we've tried to do is accommodate that, but also to create a paradigm where those vehicles are, again, the guests. This is supposed to be a 10-mile-per-hour road. This is going to be. I live here too, so when we talk about the parking and we talk about that idea of people reserving it or merchants coming and like staying in those spots, one of the things that we will be looking for an act during third big time. So we're going to be doing this. We'll be working with parking authority. My vision for this would be short-term parking along this corridor. Really, what we want to create is an opportunity for some of our less like able or elderly residents who still want to shop and buy things and have the capacity to park in a satellite lot, walk down, get what they want, walk back. We want to create an opportunity for them, 15-minute parking zones, something like that, where the terminal is a major tenement of the parking. This is not meant for long-term car storage. This is meant for people who are buying something and just need to be closer to the store.
So I'm just saying, so you plan that sounds good.
Yeah.
But when the mayor comes out, so don't put chairs out there. And the mentality of the people is kind of contradictory because if you're gonna say, "Ooh, you got a roll of quarters in your pocket, you can take that space all day long, and nobody can tell you how long, who's gonna be there with a clock or chalk in it, and then, along those lines. It is designed for disabled and
Right. Some of those will be handicap spaces as well. We'll have to look at that. And I totally understand what you're saying. Those things are going to come down to enforcement, and those are going to be really important when this is constructed. We're going to have to work with parking authority. We're going to have to work with our parking division to make sure that this area is well enforced, so that we're making sure that it's usable for the people that need it, right? Not just the people who use it. Those are extremely valid concerns. Definitely further conversation.
right, because you're gonna be faced with it, but for your 15% and presenting it, that's a win-win.
I gotta present, at this part of the project, right, I have to build for an ideal
Right.
environment, and then when we get to the 100, that's when I have to figure out, okay, the non-ideal environment, what do I need to do to mitigate those kinds of things?
Well, you already know because anything built before 78 has those environmental issues. So those properties gotta come down.
I don't think that's where it's gonna be pretty bad because of course that would.
Yeah.
Stone.
That would definitely
Stone.
have to be.
We got
looked
several.
at.
We have a question
I
online.
have several questions on that.
Do you mind if I address some of these?
All right, so Old Town Merchants question is what will this it's off.
Uh-oh. How long has that been off?
I need to be charged.
Okay. All right, I'm on a leash now. I gotta stay close to Mr. James.
Okay, so
miles an hour. Again, this is meant to be a space where cars are guests. This is not meant to be a speedway. When we talk about traffic calming elements, the biggest piece of traffic calming that we can ever create or construct is an environment where a driver does not feel safe moving quickly. Here we have a curbless street. We have a 10-foot wide travel lane, which is relatively narrow. We have a lot of street furniture that's going to be here. We're going to have planters and greening. We're going to have sunken planted areas. And we're also going to have, hopefully, a lot of people walking around. And so what we expect to see is that 10 mile per hour, which will be posted, honored. However, through the 30% to 100, we can get the mile per hour.
I don't know why this is. All right.
Well, my hope is we are restoring access. We're creating a very visually appealing environment. And we're also going to be creating amenity space for all of these businesses, space that they can't use now, right? There's nowhere to put a little cafe table and chairs in the existing Old Town Mall footprint. But this project, once completed, is going to be built with that in mind.
Okay. Next question is, what merchants did y'all talk to?
Great question. So this project has been going on for a little over a year up to this point. We have spoken to almost every single merchant that is existing now in the Old Town Mall footprint. I believe we've done we did some flyering, right? We did walk, and I believe you and
3 times
so 2 or 3 times we went and we walked the corridor, we handed out flyers, and we talked to people about the project. DHCD has also done their own conversations with myself and other people who've been involved in this project with a number of the existing property owners, not just the merchants, but the individuals who own some of the Old Town Mall buildings.
All right. So they will not be the ones using the parking cars with bad tags will be left there for days.
So that comes down to the earlier conversation about enforcement. These will be most likely short-term parking only. And so obviously the city is going to have to be vigilant about that, but this is not meant to be long-term vehicle storage.
Good evening. Kindly making a request that another meeting to reconsider that many of the merchants of Old Town haven't received any notice of this matter or meeting. I would appreciate more information.
So we'll put my contact information into the chat. Feel free to reach out to me directly. We also have, I believe Mr. Leishman's contact information is also in the presentation and should be showing on the screen. Mr. James, if you could put my email in there and encourage them to reach out directly to me.
Two T's, right?
That's right, 2 T's. They made me pay extra for the second one.
Okay. Is it possible that your office can set up a Zoom meeting for those merchants who would like to engage in this? So,
individual, they were represented in that process. What I'd like to do is I'd like to start by having a conversation with them, and then if I feel, or if we feel as if there was a gap, then we could revisit this, but there will be more meetings as we near the 30%.
Sure. So as we look at that, that parking space down there, and now that I think of it, through your rights of using HDC, as well as, those spaces are basically going to be used by the vendors. And if they, I mean, the people who, the store owners, the merchants.
You're talking about the parking spots, the 18 parking spots.
You know, those 18 parking spots, and incorporating that into your design is a way for before store, after store hours
Right.
for loading and unloading, and that could incorporate pedestrians using those strips, and people with disabilities, we can accommodate as necessary.
Right. So one of the big things too, and that's a great point. One of the big things about creating the parking on the street is not just for while the businesses are open during the daytime, but also for loading and unloading, which would happen hopefully outside of operative and peak hours. And then two, for employees who are getting in and out of their businesses, we want to make sure that there is safe areas close to the store. I think everyone who's owned a small business has been in the situation where you've got your walk all the way down an alley, and then sometimes it feels much safer and much more comfortable to have parking directly outside. So these are some of the drivers, not all the drivers, for why we're returning vehicular access, but they are certainly.
And taking that into
Yeah.
but for accommodating closing hours and set that precedence for them, because they possible way.
And that's also why it's 10 feet wide instead of narrower. We need to make it 10 feet wide so that all of the EMS equipment and fire trucks and everything like that can easily access the corridor.
And then if you're responsible for removing that snow for those businesses,
Yeah, that's important.
you have to get down that strip.
We got to get down
You got to get down from one end to the other.
big time.
And is there an overall project timeline?
So right now, we don't have a fully drawn out project timeline because not every single aspect of this or not every single phase is funded. However, a rough project outline right now is we expect to have 30% by next year. And then that 30% will be preceded by at least 12 months to get it to 100%. So we have the next 2 CIP years to work with DHCD and the Department of Planning to make sure that we have the capital to construct this as soon as we're done with the construction.
So you're looking at 2 years before.
We're looking at 2 years before construction.
And can you go back to the map where it shows the overall aerial?
1 second.
Yes, that one. The part, the lower part that's being done privately.
Yes.
How are you guys working in conjunction with that company?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have, I've been having, I was having very, very frequent meetings with them early in the process as they were trying to work through some of their design ideas. Right now, some of that development, from my understanding and talking with DHCD and the Department of Planning, is on hold. The developer is looking to rework their finance stack. However, as soon as they are back at work, the plan has always been to take the work that we're doing at DOT and essentially have them extend it all the way through the corridor, through their property. Do we have any questions online, Mr. James?
Nothing more.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, come on. Next meeting will be in Zoom.
Next meeting will be, we prefer Teams, but we can work, or WebEx. Is that what you use, Mr. James? WebEx. But stay tuned. Keep your eyes on the Streets of Baltimore page for more updates. And thank you so much, everybody. For all this information available. So all of this will be on the Streets of Baltimore page. This presentation, the 15% plan set will be on there. Everything that we create through the process of this project will always be on the Streets of Baltimore.
Merchants Association, are they currently involved with the businesses in Old Town Mall?
So,
Oh, duh.
or I know that DHCD and the Department of Planning have been working with a number of groups representing Old Town Mall merchants. It's my understanding that some of them are not represented by the group, and then others are. And so, yeah, there are some independent business merchant owners, but we have been doing a lot of work to try and reach out to everybody involved in both the current state and hopefully the future state of Old
And
Town.
running that road right down the middle of it.
That's right.
Yeah, done. So, I mean, from what you can see now, have you taken pictures of it? What happened on this last snowstorm? Were the merchants involved in removing that snow from in front of there for safety for the pedestrians? Because if it goes in, who's going to take on that responsibility?
That's true.
Because that's one of the things we're finding out now in the community, that education for process is not coming in. It's not the way it used to be. These are the things that should take in consideration. The alleys are not plowed, the trash can't be picked up, trash got to move to the front. You're responsible for cleaning your front, to be a citizen involved in the process. And then to hear mixed messages of once you shovel out the snow from in front of your door.
In 0.2 miles, turn right, then turn right onto Rossback Road.
Just want to make the process continue to move around so everybody, we can fix our city.
Yeah.
Turn right onto Rutland Road, then turn right onto Rossback
Yeah, because
Road.
I have questions about the snow as well, to piggyback off of whoever that is that's speaking.
I know that.
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
Okay, the snow as far as Old Town Mall, the back entrance on Flatiron Alley was left unplowed. I paid a plow company to come back there to plow it off so that my parents, as a daycare provider, can get through.
Turn right onto
When I
Rossback
returned
Road.
on Monday, the street was completely filled with snow. None of the dump trucks wanted to even listen to me and hear me out when I was trying to explain to them that it's traffic back there. It's a daycare, adult daycare,
In
and a
1.2
child care
miles,
that uses that
turn
way
left
to
onto
enter,
Davidson Mill Road.
especially since the inside of the mall was not clean. We at least tried to have that back path clean just in case an emergency happened, on top of the fact that we used that entrance. Nobody cared, and they kept telling me that the mayor sent them to dump. And what I was trying to understand was, if the mayor told them to dump at Old Town Mall on the lot, why was snow being filled up in the street that one business used, and also your residents walk that way to get the bus stop into they use that way to walk. So I couldn't understand
Sure.
why was snow being dumped in the street and blocking us in.
Sure.
And who can we contact when things like that happen? Because it took for me to send out an email and to reach out to so many people before something was even done about it. And it's still an issue right now as we speak. I have a door that I found that I wrote, please do not dump because we need this way to be able to get out. And that's kind of the only thing that's saving me. But I still find myself running down the street to tell the dump trucks not to dump right there.
So now I can't solve this issue specifically. What I can urge you to do is that the 311 process, submitting these through 311, to my understanding, is the way that we are tracking these requests and concerns and then trying to address them in a systematic fashion. What I'll say about the snow in general, and this is not specific to this project, but rather more about the peculiarity of this storm. Maryland, we in Baltimore do not have the standing fleet and equipment that is prepared to deal not just with the amount of snow, because we've seen this volume of snow before. What made it different was that the freezing temperatures continued for so long that the snow itself didn't go away. Now, I was the commissioner of transportation for a city in northern Ohio, and I did snow there. And I can say that this sort of process of not only moving the snow, but physically removing it, moving it to another location, and then you have to go through another process to melt it down, is a complicated one. And it's one that the agency obviously is going to try and improve upon. I think that this storm in particular was problematic. And I think that we have identified a lot of ways in which we can do better next time.
I totally understand what you're saying, and I couldn't agree
Yeah.
with it more. However, I promise you that snow, the way that snow was gathered at Old Town Mall would never be done at Canton, would never be done at Fells Point. It would never be done at those places. And I just felt like if somebody honestly cared and they came down there to see that it's businesses down there, they would have reconsidered or gave better instructions on where the snow should have been placed. Not to mention that the snow is still there, blocking.
So what?
Emergency can happen at any given time. Nobody can get through
Absolutely.
there. Like we have to, if we're gonna be talking about the people and how much we are there, we have to be intentional. So before we make a place and say this is where something is gonna be, come and see what actually is there and who actually exists is there before we give orders that doesn't make sense.
Sure. So what I'm going to ask of our community engagement team, of Mr. James and some of the other DOT members here, is to elevate this specific request to DOT leadership. I still recommend and urge you to put in a 311 request, so that way you have a way to track this, so that the
I
next
did
time
30
you
of them.
call.
I did 30 of them.
Okay, that's great. So Mr. James is going to put his contact information in the chat. And then what we'd like to do is, if you have some of those SR numbers, the service request numbers, feel free to send those to our team. And then we're going to elevate this, because I do recognize that this is a very reasonable concern. Okay. So on that note, we'll put the contact information, ma'am, in the chat. But as for this meeting for the 15% plans for Old Town Mall, I think we've addressed all the questions.
We have.
Okay. So I'll just sign off by saying the Streets of Baltimore page, keep an eye on it. That's where we're going to post all of our updates. We'll also have a copy of this presentation on there. And thank you so much for tuning in.
Before we go, I'm Shantia Bean, and while the meeting was going, I understand that some information has not been shared from the Old Town Merchant side. So I don't know who Old Town Merchants is being represented by, but I made that request directly. I didn't get a response. So instead of us having a remedy in this meeting, maybe Old Town Merchants needs to make themselves available and let us know who they are and what point of contact. If they could put that in the chat, we will respect that, because at this point, merchants shouldn't be standing there trying to find out who's plowing when we have a whole merchant association that is not being visible or vigilant to the people that are merchants in the mall, and they're stating that they are Old Town merchants and they're here, and specifically not communicating with the merchants that they're supposed to represent. If it's a one-person interest, then we need to know that so that we can move to do something different, because we shouldn't have to handle this in a DOT meeting. So who is representing Old Town merchants?
Yeah.
Who is it?
There is a merchants like person.
No person.
Well, so
So it's a
so
person that's on this line that's saying they're Old Town merchants. We want to know who that is.
so for the purposes of this meeting today, for the DOT focus meeting, that sounds like a concern that still needs to be worked out.
Okay.
I'm happy to reach out to the council person. The
Yeah,
council person's
because the merchants
representation
didn't
is
even
here.
know about the meeting till 10 minutes before the meeting. So who is sharing the information so that the merchants that are here and the owner, some of the owners don't even know. So I'd like to get this information so we wouldn't be the last to know, because we are the merchants and the people that will be affected.
Understood. So this meeting was publicized in a number of different ways. I know that my planner, as well as the council person's office, walked the corridor and
Okay.
spoke to many of the merchants that were open.
Mhm.
I know that DOP and DACD have been working with a number of groups that are either representing or claiming to represent the merchants for this corridor.
Mhm.
For those merchants that are on the call that may feel like they're not getting the information that they feel like
I'm
they,
one. Yep, I am one.
great.
Yep. Mhm.
So I would urge you to, what's that? So the council person's office is asking if you could put your email in the chat so that they could reach out directly. And then I'm also going to plug the Streets of Baltimore page for this project. Our contact information is on that page. And so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out directly to us and we can address those.
Sure.